Okay. Hello, everyone. Let's try that again. Welcome to the Mage the Ascension 20th Anniversary Edition panel for both Modern Mage and for our upcoming Victorian Mage. Apparently I was told 2 minutes ago that I'm the showrunner for this, so I definitely know what I'm doing. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'll go first. I'm Ian A.A. Watson. I'm co-developer on Victorian Mage, and I'm the community manager here at Onyx Path. Anyone else?
I'll go.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Brick, otherwise known as Jax or Jax Hermana on the internet. I am your resident Nefandus. I was one of the 2 people who worked on Book of the Fallen. You can see that through my little blur here. I have also worked on Technocracy Reloaded and the Technocracy Companion. And I have an unreasonable fixation on the Nefandi, so if Ian knows what's good for her, they will not let me talk too much about it.
Okay, I'm going next. Hi, I'm Kat. I have worked on various bits and pieces of Mage, from the Technocracy Operatives dossier through to Lore of the Traditions, through to some more upcoming stuff that I'm not even sure has been announced yet. It was associated with Victorian Mage, and I don't know what's been said. I would like to think that I'm a cool New World Order operative, all slick and smart, but in fact, I am probably Edition X Time Motion Manager because I'm badly in need of spare parts.
Steffi.
Hello, next. I'm Stephanie Van. I was a developer on the Technocracy Reloaded Player's Guide and on the Disparate Alliance, and on a bunch of other books that are not Mage, and I've written for the thing that Kat can't talk about. And I am definitely the disillusioned orphan who doesn't get paid enough to put up with this Ascension bullshit.
Hiromi.
And I'm Hiromi, they, them. I am the line developer for Scion. I write a lot of Mage stuff. That's not Mage. This stuff and like 5 or 6 books that haven't actually hit press yet. And I need to look up whether or not I can talk about the thing that Kat and Steffi are talking about, because I was the developer for that. So one moment on that.
So
congratulations, audience. You will be getting spoilers today.
Looking stuff that was announced during the Victorian Mage Indiegogo was the Jumpstart digital wallpaper, Bizarre Tales and Unusual Characters, Weird Wonders and Revolutionary Magic, and the VTZ token asset pack. So I don't know if what you're working on was included in all of that.
Yes, Bizarre Tales and Unusual Characters and Weird Wonders and Revolutionary Magic. So
excellent. Right. So our first question here from Zach is, how are y'all doing today? Pretty good.
Well, my alarm just went off, which tells you how adjusted I am to being awake right now.
I feel you.
Oh, it's still going off.
I am caffeinated. I'm on painkillers for my TMJ. I am ready to go.
Anyone else?
I'm always fine. I'm the friend who's always fine.
I have never seen you not be fine, Steffi.
There you go. I am always fine.
All right, let's get started. We've got, let me just bring up the upcoming schedule here. I'm very well prepared. All right, who wants to talk about their upcoming products? We've got we've got Melody Through the Mirror Shades, which is Technocracy novellas. I don't know if any of us are working on those. Lord of the Traditions, Forgotten Forbidden Orders, Faces of Magic, Weird Wonders, Revolutionary Magic, Bizarre Tales, Unusual Characters for Victorian. Yeah, and the recently announced M20 Sorcerer. I don't know if any of us are working on that. And of course, there's a whole bunch of stuff that has been recently released.
Has Operatives Dossier come out yet?
I'm not sure. Has it?
It has at the very least hit preview.
Sweet.
I'm not seeing it on drive-thru, so it may have gone out to backers, but it is not a public release yet.
Can I talk a little bit about Operatives Dossier?
By all means.
Sweet. So I was super excited to be asked by the developers of Operatives Dossier, who I believe are Travis and Satiros. And I got to write some amazing stuff for that, including 1,000 words of technocracy specific phone apps that you can download on your super special technocratic smartphone. I love your mug, Ian. Thank you for showing off the Pride Month mug for Onyx Path. But I think my favorite app that I wrote was what was it? It was Norden's call triangulation, which is it is a correspondence-based app. I don't remember the technocratic term for correspondence off the top of my head, but it is a correspondence-based app that allows you to trace any call, either analog or digital, anywhere on the surface of the Earth or in the near the penumbra. And there's a note at the bottom of it that says you cannot hack into Norden's call triangulation in order to find control. It doesn't do that. Please stop. There's a bunch of little notes on each of the apps, just sort of a snarky commentary on what they can and cannot do, or how operatives use them, or how operatives should not be using them. So I'm really excited about that section of the book. I also did a section on digital graveyards, of just like dead websites or websites of people who have died, for technocrats to explore. So I'm really, really excited for y'all to get to see that.
Yeah, and I love the apps. I think it absolutely, like modern technocracy would absolutely just go, yeah, there's an app for that. Like assassinate people, yeah, I've got an app, I'll hit a button. Or hack people, yeah, I've got an app for that. Like they would absolutely just app everything. So I love that idea.
Anyone else want to jump in on any of their projects?
Yeah, I mean, I might as well bring up Bizarre Tales and Unusual Characters because Cat and Steffi are here. So Bizarre Tales and Unusual Characters is, I believe it was a stretch goal for Victorian Mage. At the very least, it is Victorian Mage. And as the name suggests, it has a bunch of unusual characters in them, as well as plot hooks for basically any level of mage game you're running, like from street level to globe-trotting mages trying to put out fires on an international level, as well as all kinds of fun/terrifying things that you can be doing in the Umbra, because the Umbra is fun and terrifying. And I guess I will put Cat on the spot to talk about the fun stuff that they did.
I'm going to need you to come back to why the Umber is fun and terrifying, because I haven't read that bit of the book, and this is very much my jam. But yeah, just thank you for letting me bring in my Arthur Machen and Victor Hugo fantasies to Mage, because I had so much fun putting in like creepy folklore monsters for your mages to tangle with, and strange surgeons made out of bits of bodies that they're constantly replacing themselves with. The adventure hooks in Victorian Mage are wild, guys. Wild. Steffi, I think you did even cooler stuff than me.
I mean, I will believe you on that. I've got one of those freelancer brains. I will write something, I will send it, and then it's gone forever. But yeah, I remember doing Paris for it, and just I did this gramophone thing that could see avatars or the Umbra or something weird like that, and people were not sure if they were hallucinating, and the technocracy was like, well, that's weird, and the mages were like, oh, we should probably not have that, or make everybody see avatars, like just force an awakening on everything. Yeah, I love the Victorian setting, because I don't actually, was the Victorian age, I mean, yeah, but all of British history is weird. Actually, when you look at it, like, they are weird people. I'm sorry.
We are.
But yes. So all of it is weird.
In the Victorian age, we got self-referentially weird, though.
Yes. And they embraced the occult, which but I love writing about it, because in fiction it is really weird. Like, people have probably an even weirder idea than it was, and they had doctors who prescribed you cocaine, so it was weird, but people have the idea that it's even weirder than that, which means that in fiction you can do absolutely outrageous things and people will be like, yeah, that sounds right. And if you would write it in a modern age, the developer would come back and would be like, no, this is outlandish, we cannot do that. Then in the Victorian books, it's like, okay, sure, fine, whatever.
That's actually,
yeah, go ahead.
That's actually a super cool point about the Victorian Mage setting. Like, as I was reading the Victorian Mage manuscript, I was thinking, like, yeah, what the Victorians believed is actually like bafflingly weird and such a broad swathe. And, I think when people think about the Victorians, they think about stuffy people who covered the legs of pianos, which is not true, by the way. That is absolutely false. But yeah, there were some absolutely crazy, like, philosophical detours and tangents and weird scientific dead ends in the Victorian age. There's just so much more fun to have there than I think maybe people expect.
I follow a wonderful sex historian on social media, Kate Lister, and no, Kate Leister, I think, actually. But I have 3 words on Victorian England: aristocratic nipple piercings, which are nipple piercings actually came into vogue with the Victorian age. And if I don't see any of those in the Victorian age Mage book, you've all ruined my immersion. I'm sorry.
I don't know that we could get that approved.
We should let the art department know. Just randomly put nipples on a guy. Like,
they're in Weird Wonders. I got you.
Hell yeah.
Chapter 1 of Weird Wonders and Revolutionary Magic. And also mummy eating. I'm sorry, mummy eating is not in the book, but I don't think mummy eating is in there, but it was a thing the Victorian people did.
Why?
They also snarfed them, like they just took them like cocaine.
It was also one of the most expensive paint colors, mummy brown, because it's made of ground up mummies.
That's so fucked up.
Yep.
I was gonna say something about the Victorian. Am I allowed to swear on this panel, Ian?
Yes.
Fuck no.
I'm sorry, Ian.
Okay. God, something I'd really love to see from the Victorian Mage thing is it's really easy to set in Victorian England, especially Hermetics, because you're going to get people like Arthur Waite and Aleister Crowley, but I want to see what the colonized mages are doing at that point. Like,
there's a lot of that. One of the main
Hell
things
yes.
we were approaching was colonization across the world, because I mean, we're calling it Victorian Mage because both like it's the time period, but also because of the British Empire.
Of
The
course.
sun never sets on the British Empire, and
course.
it's not just because
Yeah.
let's have a fun little romp across the world, but like no, people were doing some pretty terrible things, and we do confront that.
I am so excited to see how that works. I think I'm the only person in this panel who is not on any Victorian mage books, just because the Victorian era is not really my thing per se, because I find it tends to be very much about Lord Bustle, Lord Top Hat and Lady Bustle, or Lady Top Hat and Lord Bustle, if you prefer. But I am really, really excited to see what the fabulous and talented writers and developers on this panel are doing with Victorian
I
mage.
actually have an advanced copy.
Oh yeah?
Oh, nice.
There we go. You can tell it's Mage because it's got the
Yes.
card in the middle.
And also
Oh,
the
yeah.
sticky.
It's so cute. I love that.
When Mage the Sorcerer's Crusade, which was the Renaissance period game, when that was being advertised, it was being advertised as the confluence of magic, faith, and science. Like that was the three big things. But what I love about Victorian Mage is like that's barely even the top of the iceberg. There's just so much going on, like both with like all sorts of weird science going on and occultism and just like different, like even just within England, right? Like there's just so much weird stuff that the Victorians are into, and it's such a fun setting to dig into, and there's a lot there for people, and I really hope people enjoy it.
One of the things that I came across researching a different project is that the spirit board, the talking board, was actually developed because it was a pub game. People were doing that in bars with pieces of papers and glasses and bullshit. And then somebody was like, oh, wait, what if I make an official version and then sell it for a lot of money? But yeah, so it was just like Friday night, you go to a pub and you summon the spirits of the dead. Like, sorry, come again.
Yep. It was
not what you were doing when you were 18.
Yes, exactly.
It was either Milton Bradley or Hasbro that did the Ouija board. The official
I think it was Waddington's, who have probably been bought by one of those now.
Companies.
Yes. Well, it's Hasbro, and I believe it's Hasbro because it allows me to make the joke of, hey, they keep resurrecting dead corpses like Ouija in D&D. It's fine. It's Onyx Path Con. Hey Ian, can I go into a brief tangent about Sorcerer's Crusade?
Brief, because it's not an Onyx Path thing.
Okay. I would be super interested in exploring that as an Onyx Path thing at some point, but I have recently been rereading Caliban and the Witch, which is very much about how a Marxist interpretation of the Renaissance and the early modern period as a seizure of land and turning the uterus into a site of reproductive labor, and witch burnings and witch hunts as a tool of that. And I'd actually at some point really love to see that sort of confluence of reason, faith, and science, and how that worked for mages as opposed to just people who were accused of being witches for political reasons. Just a thought. That's my brief tangent.
I mean, there's always the storyteller's fault.
There sure is. Oh man. Do you have any more questions for us, fearless moderator?
Yes.
Question from Janothar. Even if you can't tell us what they are, can you tell us if anything is in the pipeline and hasn't been announced? No.
Cannot. Sorry.
No. The last thing we announced was M20 Sorcerer. So it's a 20th anniversary edition version of World of Darkness Sorcerer and Sorcerer Revised. And that should be pretty fun. We're looking forward to that.
Hell yeah.
Otherwise, what you see is what you get. I will post the latest production rundown. Yes, Travis, we announced Sorcerer. So the production rundown there that I just posted in chat, that is a list of everything that is currently in production. And you can sort of, everything in bold is something which has changed since last month's update. So you can check that to see what we're working on. Bunch of Mage stuff on there. But if there's something that we're working on that hasn't been announced yet, and we're not announcing it now, we can't talk about it. So, sorry. That's just how things work. Oh, Travis says, hey all, I'm developing Sorcerer. So, there
Hell
you go.
yeah. Hey,
Yay.
Travis, put me on Sorcerer.
Me. Hiromi, put me on Sorcerer. Me.
I'm not
Whoever's
Sorcerer.
doing it, put me on Sorcerer.
That's Travis. You know him. You have his email address. I don't propose that you should
Yeah,
stalk
but
him, but
look
you
at
should
Twitch.
stalk him.
Look at Twitch.
just put all of us on Sorcerer. Just
Yeah.
all of us.
There's
I
a whole,
actually have a
there's a
question.
whole I'm Brian going on in chat.
I have a question for the assembled, if that is okay, Ian.
Yeah.
So it is Pride Month, and this is a lovely panel full of queer people. And Mage is very queer in a lot of ways. So what in honor of Pride Month, what is your favorite queerest thing about Mage? Like, even if it's not like a queer character, what to you is the queerest thing about Mage, or could be considered the queerest thing about Mage? And why do you like it?
Every group of player characters is a found family narrative. Every single one. It's all just a bunch of hot messes whose flaws hopefully cancel each other out and allow them to function, more or less.
Yes, same. So, because I developed the Forbidden and Forgotten Orders, which deals with the Disparate Alliance, and they are very, very much the hot mess, dysfunctional family with a lot of drama and hatred and intrigue, and like all the siblings who think they are in charge, and then resentful younger siblings who are like, no, fuck your bullshit. And I love that dynamic. That's actually why I love the Disparate Alliance so much. The council has that too, but they pretend they don't. Whereas the Disparate Alliance is just like, yeah, we all hate each other.
Oh no,
But
the way
it's
I run
fine.
the Council of Nine, they're not pretending anymore.
My favorite queerest thing in Mage is a character that I'm not sure if James Sombrano created the character or if it was just one that they were updating. But Pumari from the Kavadi of or the Red Spear Society of the Kavadi, because I was given the character to make 4 faces of magic, and I went super fucking queer, y'all. So I don't know, or rather, I have forgotten Pomari's previous lore because I have replaced it with more fun. Pomari is intersex and was born in 1975, so queer rights not exactly on the forefront of anyone's minds, and bad things happened, and now Pumari is a fucking furious spear of queer rights that will fuck everyone up and also indigenous fucking rights. So fucking absolutely wreck bigots all day long.
Love that. Ian?
way back in the founding of the traditions, there was an aristocrat named Julius de Medici and an orphan, Mia de Napoli. They underwent an alchemical fusion into the Entelechy and sort of the representation of the Solificati, and in a sense, the traditions as a whole. One perfected being of both genders, and I thought that was pretty cool. Downside, they did betray the traditions to the Order of Reason, so we're not going to pay attention to that part. Just, you know, pay attention to the good, ignore the bad. It's all good.
Hey, we can have queer villains as a
Sure.
treat.
Yeah.
Speaking of queer villains as a treat, I've talked about this a lot of other places. I'm very attached to the Nefandi for a lot of reasons, but one of the specific reasons is that I grew up far right, homeschooled, Catholic, and at a certain point, I realized that the expectations that were placed on me were unreasonable, if not outright nonsense. And there's a certain point where you look at those expectations and go, if this is good, fuck you, I'm evil. Because I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not playing your game anymore. I'm going to do the things that make me happy and satisfied and comfortable. And in some ways, the Nefandi narrative is very much that. It is saying, fuck you, I don't want to engage with any of your bullshit. I'm going to go find my own bullshit to deal with. Now, my bullshit happens to be, you know, world destroying and selfish. But there's a certain resonance to the fuck you, I'm evil of the Nefandi that I find really interesting and enheartening. And there is that tinge of like queer rage and queer nihilism to that, which is something I really, really appreciate in the Nefandi.
Okay,
So.
let's see. Any more questions? Dengar asked, where's Lord of the Traditions in development right now? And Zach answered in art direction. So that answers that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that is in the release roundup link that I posted a little bit earlier in chat. So you can check there and see the current production status of everything that we're working on, both for Mage and for everything else on the chart. I don't see any other questions. And we talked about the stuff that we've got coming up. We've talked about the stuff that we've done recently. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about?
Would you like me to? I can just ask questions all day long because I have many thoughts about Mage.
If you've got questions, I don't have any.
Well, we actually just got a question in the chat. So there you go.
Which version of the meta plot is your favorite? Okay.
Oh, hydrate. Everybody hydrate.
Which version of the meta plot is your favorite? I'm not sure how to answer that because as far as Mage 20 goes, there's only really been the one version of the meta plot, assuming we ignore that the world got destroyed in Ascension. You know, a minor thing to ignore.
I'm going to be controversial and say I miss the Avatar Storm. I thought it was cool.
Oh, I thought it was awful as somebody who, small anecdote of things that enraged me. I was in a Mage campaign that ran for about, it was a LARP, but they weren't using the mind's eye. They kind of adapted. Anyway, it was a LARP, it was a Mage LARP, and it ran for about 5 years, and I was a very spirit-heavy Mage. That was my main sphere. I pretty much maxed that. All my experience points went into the practical ones went into Elite and Spirit, and then there was a lot of bullshit because, you know. So that's what I did. Like my MO was to grab enemies, take them into the Umbra, and then fuck them up because I was really good at that. And then one day my storyteller introduced the Avatar Storm, and basically, like, I couldn't do anything anymore because she was like, no, you can't cross. Okay, can I restat? Can I get a refund for my powers? No, you just can't cross and you can't do anything. And I was like, oh,
That's
This-
awful.
This sucks.
That sucked. That storyteller really did suck. Wow.
She was amazing, and we worked it out later. But that was like, why would you do that to me?
See, my group ended up playing it like almost like the Rapture. Suddenly, all of the masters were gone, and it was just these tiny little queer disaster babies, because that's what all the players were. So it's what our characters were, who suddenly had like a whole world as their toy box. And the ensuing chaos was just brilliant.
My favorite meta plot is actually a very thin slice of things where Hyunmyoung Sunim died in War of Heaven and has since reincarnated into a trans man from San Francisco who is a hip hop MC who is now trying to heal diasporic issues and the East Coast, West Coast beef through rapid meditation, because they gave me the reins on this, and that's what I fucking do.
Hell yes. I have the Mage Time of Judgment book that is just called Ascension. Sometimes I enjoy reading it when I need my brain to go in a different direction. The world-ending scenarios in that book are, if possible, wackier than the world-ending scenarios in the Gehenna book for Vampire the Masquerade, including the one where there's aliens, sort of, and they kind of want to take over the Earth, except not really, and there's something eating magic, and maybe you can make a copy of the universe in which magic isn't eaten and leave the old universe to just slowly dry out and die. And that one was wild because that is impossible to follow with any Euclidean train of thought. And of course, there is the Nefandus Time of Judgment scenario, which obviously I love because it's very much the plot of The Stand, but with mages. And you just get Randall Flagg from The Stand showing up as a Nefandus going, yes, hello, this has been my world all along. And you're like, what are you doing here? He's like, baby, can you dig your man? I'm like, what is going on? But it's very fun. So that's probably my favorite meta plot piece of Mage.
Didn't they also have one where you finally find out what the 10th sphere is and it's judgment?
Yep.
Really? That
Really?
How long did we wait for that? God, who wrote that? We demand to know.
If you're talking about the first scenario in the book, the one that takes up the majority of the book, that was written by Malcolm Shepard. It's the one that sort of ties up all the little loose ends of the overall Mage meta plot.
Yep. Because I remember so much speculation on forums and stuff about what the 10th sphere was, and so many homebrews, and then it's like the 10th sphere is judgment. Okay, how what?
My favorite is in the Nefandi one, which is, I mean, obviously, which is 10th sphere. Y'all are morons.
The 10th sphere was the friends we made along the way.
Yes.
I think my favorite bit, one of the first things I did in terms of working on a book for Onyx Path was Ryan Macklin had brought me on board just to double check some math on the final revised convention books. So I got to read those early. And when we got to the bits about threat null, oh, that was some good shit. I was like, oh shit, no, you didn't.
I
Yes, you did.
love threat null so much. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
No.
The threat null in Technocracy Reloaded is so much fun. I can't wait for you guys to read that. I think I don't even remember if I wrote threat null. I know I wrote some stuff for it, but like it's wacky and strange and absurdist and terrifying, and it's so good.
Travis would like you to talk about Operatives Dossier a little bit more.
Well, I talked about Operatives Dossier already, so if anybody else worked on it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I could.
I can't beat that, Hiram.
I was just pointing to the threat null section of Technocracy Reloaded.
Ah.
Does anybody have anything on Operatives Dossier they want to talk about? Because I can just go off about what I wrote. But
I mean, not the main book, but for the player companion and obviously building off the main book. I love the fact that they're like, are they bad guys? Yes. Do they think they are bad guys? No. Could you follow their reasoning and why they think they're not bad guys? Yeah, sure. And I thought that was a really well chosen angle for them, because it humanizes them while you can still go like, no, yeah, they are definitely the baddies.
Every good villain is the hero of their own story.
Exactly.
100%.
Yes. Yes.
I think you
And
could
also,
say
like-
that about.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you could say that about the traditions too.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you should.
Yes. I think the best villains are the ones like if you encountered them and they sat you down for like a pitch, then you should walk away going, yeah, maybe they could sell me that
Oh, yeah.
MLM. Like,
Going, I
yes.
know this is wrong. And yet.
Exactly. That you go like, yeah.
A bit of a side tangent. Avengers Infinity War, it is framed with Thanos as the protagonist, not as a good guy, but he's the protagonist of the film. It is his story.
Yes.
And it's very effective told that way.
Yes.
Something I think about with Thanos a lot, and that's something that is worth keeping in mind with your villains in Mage, is Thanos is a fascist. Like Thanos is absolutely an eco-fascist. He is someone who does not imagine, and he is someone who cannot imagine a different world without clearing out undesirables first. And there's so many things you can do in the Marvel universe, but this guy is just like, oh yeah, kill half the people, it'll be fine.
Yep.
Having power and lacking imagination and capacity for compassion is what makes him a villain.
Yes, absolutely. And also the fact that he can't envision a different system. Like, you're effectively God. You could make a world that has no hunger, no capitalism. Like, you could do that. Like, if you can snap away half the people, I absolutely believe that you could snap away capitalism. But he can't think outside that system. So the solution he seeks must be within that system, and then he comes out to, let's kill half of everyone.
And it's not
That
even
is so Mage. Like,
it's not even a great solution, because let's say snapping away half the people in the universe worked. That's only going to work on the short term because people are going to reproduce, and eventually, you're going to have the same problem that we already had.
Yeah, you're going to have to do it again. And as Kat said, that's incredibly Mage, because it is taking the quickest, most powerful solution to your problem and trying to turn it into a moral good, which
and not being able to see outside your own paradigm.
yeah, it's power without enlightenment. It's exactly that. It's not being able to see
Yes.
outside your own paradigm. And in principle, that's why mages need to reach for ascension, right? Not just for power, but for greater understanding and actually being able to not fuck up the entire world with that
And
power.
also, from a sort of philosophical point of view, does it count as ascension if only half of the people get there?
Yeah. So that's actually something I really like about the technocracy. And so I grew up in Delaware, which is basically a tax haven for half the world at this point. And so I grew up surrounded by NWO and Syndicate and all the other conventions to a certain extent. There is this really pervasive and almost seductive idea with the technocracy that if only certain people can reach Ascension and the rest of the people are left asleep, is that really a world we want to be in? So there's almost this pitch for equalizing the playing field within the technocracy, because anyone can use, like, enlightened citizens can use technocracy devices, right? And like the sort of slow calcification under the world of the world under the technocracy they play out is very much this again equalizing force, because oh well, if only half of us can reach Ascension, then none of us should have to reach Ascension. And that's something I like to roll around in my head with them, because I don't necessarily think they're all bad guys. I think they're I think they're absolutely part of a broken and persuasive system.
Yes.
But ultimately, what they're asking for is safety in that very constricting, stifling
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
And I kind of like how in Mage 20, no, not kind of like, I really like how in Mage 20, they've showed that all that's done is kind of turn reality into like just ballast for mages.
Yes.
Like it hasn't helped anyone, it hasn't saved anyone. It was just all around a horrible idea.
I'm just sort of going on a mental tangent. If Ascension is only for a small select group of people and everyone else is left behind, how do we know that hasn't already happened before? And
Oh,
Ooh.
that's basically the setup for Mage the Awakening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically. Yes. I mean, I'm a socialist, so I'm very much like everyone, or it doesn't count.
yeah, I'm an anarcho-syndicalist, so I am
Yeah.
with you there.
Same. I can't tell if I'm just super tired or ADHD or never mind. I'm just going to go. So at some point, I recall that there was Travis asked us to talk about Operative's dossier, and I'm tired, undercaffeinated, and ADHD, so I'm fixated on that. As a quick kind of overview, there's a bunch of constructs and symposiums that are these are places that you can base a campaign in with storyteller characters. Sorry, I was about to say story guide characters because I'm mainly over on story.
Story
Oh,
I'm
path.
so tired. I'm so tired.
Focus.
You can do it.
We believe in you.
So anyways, there are characters there that are pre-made. You can go ahead and either play as them, or you can have them as your contacts who do cool stuff. It also has a chapter talking about how technocracy can interface with organizations that maybe the technocracy doesn't usually want to work with, like the Disparate Alliance, like even the fucking traditions. There's a big chunk on Web 3.0. That's a lot of fun. And naturally, there's a big chunk of procedures, adjustments, and other goodies that you can play with. And at the very end of it, there's really brief plot hooks that you can go ahead and just build a chronicle off of. And it is a relatively short book, like 100 pages, but it is a dense 100 pages.
It's got a lot of good shit packed in there.
Oh, and if you watched the Technocracy Reloaded stream with me, Jax, Travis, was Sater on that?
Heroes. Yes,
Yeah. We're in there.
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah. We're in there. Terranorming research and application in Lake Delton, Wisconsin.
That should all be up on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
go
the
with-
last episode's not because it got lost to the I'll blame it on the Avatar storm.
That's a shame because the last episode was powerful. It was so good. I really enjoyed playing in that with you, Hiromi. That was an awesome campaign, and like, and my character wound up dating Hitmark, and that was really funny. His name was Gaston.
Oh no.
Abby Ebenezer was in there too. She was great. She's great in everything she does.
Yes.
She was great as the wide-eyed, what the fuck are all of you doing? You're all breaking the rules and talking about stuff that we shouldn't be talking about or acknowledge
She was
that exists.
phenomenal. She was so good. So let's check the chat for questions because there were some really good ones.
Yep. Black Raven 601 asks, the Disparate Alliance, was it meant to be a replacement for your former group union / tradition? I.e., I have VA and join them. Did I give up being a VA? Yeah, the Disparate Alliance is sort of an umbrella organization. So if you're joining the Disparate Alliance, you're not a member of your tradition or convention anymore. Because if you're a virtual adept, you're a member of the traditions because the virtual adepts are a tradition, right? So essentially you would have to join up with one of the disparate groups, one of the crafts that are a part of the alliance. If that makes sense.
I think it's maybe worth adding that the Disparate Alliance, like the traditions, aren't just social groups, right? They're based on what you believe. So when you talk about leaving a tradition and joining the Disparate Alliance, it's more like you've had a fundamental shift in the way you understand reality and the way you think about your magic. So you might be an Ali Batin or a Taftani who has definitely like retained some of the stuff that they understood as a VA, but also they've had a significant shift or they wouldn't have left, right? They would just be a VA who wasn't hanging out with the tradition anymore.
Now, I don't know if we did it in Mage 20, but in previous editions, there was a dual traditions merit you could get, which represented having like either being a former member of one tradition and then moving to something else or something along those lines, so that you could have sort of that dual background in different belief systems. So that would be something that would be effective for being
That would be fun.
Yes.
a new member of the Disparates.
Yeah, what we did do is say that the alliance is different in every location. So there are a couple of crafts that generally make them up. But if you go to 2 different cities, then because the crafts are very small, that's kind of their whole thing. So you might end up with having not the entire array of crafts that go into the Disparate Alliance. So that changes. I'm like, would I, in my game, allow a virtual adept to join the Disparate Alliance, like to defect essentially and join the alliance? Yes. Do I think that should be part of a story where your paradigm changes sufficiently so that you stop being a virtual adept and either become a technocratic orphan or something else? Yes, also. So could you join? Sure. But I think that should be part of a larger narrative where you leave one group and join the other. And you can't just say, I'll be a part of the alliance and stay a virtual adept. But I absolutely think that you could say, I will join, and that's going to be part of my story of dropping one tradition in favor of another, or just becoming an orphan. We are the best craft. You should join us. We have no leaders. We killed them all.
Like the Klingons with their gods.
Exactly, yes. People tried to tell us what to do, so we murdered them.
Yeah, I really like that potential for story there. I love the idea of just slowly changing your character throughout the narrative and watching that shift happen and experiencing that. And I think Mage is a great game to do that with because it does allow for that. Yeah.
Sort of an exploration of self through exploration of magic.
Right.
100%.
Planescape is philosophers with clubs. Mage is philosophers with lightning bolts.
Lightning bolt. Yeah. Goodness.
Josh in the chat plugged Rich Bastard's Guide to Magic, which is delightful, especially because we kind of focused on the bastard part, because if you have so much money that you can actually alter reality just by the sheer dint of money you have, you're a bastard. And
Yep.
what's your life like? Awful for everyone around you.
Exactly. What do you do when you're not shooting cars into space?
Yes, the Jeff Bezos Guide to Magic.
If you want to know who the real villains are, it's them.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think we are all agreed.
100%.
There's cloud computing, and then there's also just a cloud that you can pilot around and dump rain and lightning on people to be a dick, because you know they would do it.
So what I'm getting from this is, just like Marauders have sort of that field where any paradox that their magic accrues doesn't actually accumulate on them, it just gets distributed to everyone else. This is like that, but for being a shitty person.
Yes.
Trickle down paradox, yes.
Oh no, no.
The only thing that actually does trickle down from the rich.
Yes.
Their mistakes. Thanks.
Ugh.
And I see that Black Raven had a second question, which probably ties into the disparate question. With the traditions, can one be a member of a tradition and effectively walk from the structure or dogma of it, like being a rogue mage, still holding on to the group, but the chantry system just not being worth it? Yes, I've seen that happen in games. I would absolutely allow that in my game. At some point, the virtual adept's going to say, look, you got to get off the fence, choose a side. Yes, because I would like to make things difficult for your character, and push them, like, you got to make a choice at some point. But I think that would be a fun story to explore.
And it's worth noting that every tradition, convention, whatever, has their fanatics and believes that they are the best. And if you are just floating between like traditions or crafts or whatever, someone is going to get mad at you. Someone is going to start calling for you to choose a side, and then you don't, may even start calling for your execution or Gilgal because they view you as a traitor. Like, when you are able to literally shape reality with a word or a thought, or typing in the right code or looking in the right mirror, things don't look normal to you anymore. Like, it is very easy for your thoughts to start splitting into black and white morality or blue and orange morality. And I think that is something that is worth exploring in a lot more mage games, because it's really easy to just hooray, we have these powers. But once you have these powers and you know how to use them, what does it look like for you?
Yes, and to me also the traditions and the technocracy and the Nefandi and now the Disparate Alliance, now that they've gotten off the fence, they all believe that there is a war going on for reality itself and the souls of all the people who live in it. That's not low stakes. That is not something you can sit out. Either you're in or you're out. And if you want to be out, that's fine, but then you've got to be out. You can't just hang out, because this is a big, like, this is the all or nothing prize. And yeah, I think it's okay if people get a little fanatical about that.
Yeah.
While I completely agree with all of that, I tend to run the traditions, and especially chantries, as kind of not the core tradition experience for every mage, right? Because if you're a hermetic who lives in London, you maybe know 3 other hermetics, and maybe one of them, like Jack said, is like a real hold the line fanatic who is like fully engaged in hermetic doctrine, and maybe one of them is just, you know, some woman who's got a weird collection of Egyptian artifacts and like snorting mummies. I think every mage has like a really different experience of the traditions and a different degree of connection to them. So it's not always like I don't resonate with tradition dogma and therefore I'm going to leave the traditions. It's more like I'm just going to keep doing my thing, call me if you need me, kind of thing.
And like leftists on the internet, they're always going to fight each other about it.
But the point, call me when you need me. Like, you do need to pick up the phone.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And then you have the Wurong, who are everywhere. They kind of shattered. They're in the traditions. They're in Disparate Alliance. They're their own thing. Strange things happen when you lose the mandate of heaven.
Oh yeah.
They don't have access to Shen anymore, so everything's gone to shit. And they're still mad about it, and they're still going to try to be in control, as insofar as you can be control when you're a minority of the Akashiana.
All we have to do is find that mandate. It's got to be around here somewhere.
Well, it looks like we've got a minute to go, so I'm gonna wrap up. Thank you all for joining me on this panel, talking about Mage. Thank you to everyone in chat for joining us and asking us questions while we talk about Mage and the Avengers.
And leftism.
And leftism. And below our lovely pictures here, you can see our social media handles. So if you want to ask us more questions about Mage or leftism or the Avengers, you can contact us there, and we'll be happy to talk to you further. And coming up next in 30 minutes is the Bodana interview, where Rich and Dixie interview Jack Birkenstock from the Bodana Group. They are our chosen charity for OPP Con. If you've signed up for a game and you've paid your GM, a good chunk of that money is going to the Bodana Group. Onyx Path doesn't take any of that.
Yep. The Bodana Group are amazing. They are people who use tabletop RPGs as a therapeutic tool and are exploring that both academically and in game space. And Jack is an amazing dude, so I'm really excited that we're supporting them.
I think that's it. So
Yeah. Well, thank you all for
very much, everyone.
coming.
Thanks for watching.
See you in half an hour.
Bye.